Well, partner, we got another one to another podcast that we got going on, and we have a special one today, brother.
Absolutely.
This is going to be awesome.
Yes, I'm pleased to be here. We have our Chief of Police, Jeffrey Katz.
Yep.
Colonel Katz is here for our 1-year anniversary of the podcast.
Exactly. And if we think back to that first podcast and talking to the Colonel about where we're going, how the department is doing, recruiting-wise, with that partnership that we have with the community, this is going to be interesting to hear what's going on now after a year being on podcast. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and we also want to immediately thank our listeners who we received a lot of positive comments on social media for supporting the podcast, as well as behind-the-scenes people like Chris Rizzuti and Linda Shaduli and Lena Shaduli. And we have a lot of other people who've given us a lot of good ideas. But
and
the
talking
vision,
to all, exactly, the vision of the department, where we're going, and we talk to so many different units with our police department, from investigations to forensics to our internal affairs. We talk to so many people,
right?
And then it leads us to where we are today. So let's get into it and introduce and reintroduce our colonel.
Well, hey, thank you very much, and happy anniversary, guys.
Thank you.
1 year, that's remarkable.
And we've been having a lot of other departments been coming by saying we like your podcast, going through some of the things that we're going through, and getting our message out to our citizens. So this is great for this anniversary.
Right.
I just think it's another example of Chesterfield leading the way in the way that modern policing is done.
Yes.
And I'm real proud of you guys for the work that you're doing, putting your creative hats on.
Thank you.
And helping to share our message and our mission and our vision with those that we serve.
Exactly. And we're looking forward to moving forward on the P's, talking about some of the things that your initiatives have been for the police department. And we've been putting it in the podcast that we've been talking about, that protecting the community, the prosperity of the community, and things of that sort. So again, talking about that partnership, putting all those things forward. You want to talk briefly about that first, your mission?
Sure. Well, one of the things that I think is important of all effective organizations is that everybody comes to work every day with an understanding of what it is that we're here to accomplish. And we recognize that, we have over 700 employees in this department, and everybody brings unique talents and skills and passions to the table. And that diversity of contribution is something that makes us better as an organization, and we never want to stifle people's passions. So what we've done is we've identified 4 key goals for our mission of our organization. The first is the protection of human life. Of course, that's the most essential thing that any law enforcement organization does. And then the protection of the vulnerable is equally important.
Yep.
And then the 2 other things that we seek to do is to establish problem-solving partnerships.
Exactly.
And what that means is that we come to the table with people to work together to solve lifelong challenges, right? Like, so often law enforcement is called to situations that have been in the making for years.
Right.
And we've been asked to apply our technical expertise to bring stability to chaos that, again, has been manifesting over a long period of time.
Right.
So we recognize that, addressing some of these underlying adaptive issues is really important to disabling the chaos in the future, right? So establish these partnerships, work with people. We don't espouse the ability to solve people's problems long term. We want to work with them, provide them resources to help them do it. But we recognize individual agency and decision-making and the consequences of that. And we recognize our place as a community resource to provide additional resources to members of our community who are struggling with long-term problems. So the problem-solving partnership, I think, is key to addressing some of the adaptive challenges in the community. And then fourthly, and I think also critical, is personnel. It's the recruitment, the retention, and the development of top-tier talent.
Yep.
We recognize that we can't accomplish the first 3 over the long term without leaning into staff, without making sure that the positions that we have budgeted are filled with talented, passionate, enthusiastic, high-character individuals who are willing to put the community before themselves.
Good.
Right.
Good.
Well, Colonel, let me ask you, your first P is about the protection of the vulnerable.
Right.
what does crime look like in Chesterfield right now? We've seen an increase of crime, at least the media is reporting, an increase of crime across the country. What's happening here at home?
Well, the numbers actually that I got yesterday in preparation for a media interview this afternoon at 1 o'clock indicate we have an 18.8% decrease in crime year over date from last year.
Okay.
Last year, we experienced an 8% decrease in crime. Now, we don't take credit for decreases in crime because we don't take responsibility for increases in crime.
Exactly.
But what we do celebrate with our community, because we're part of our community, we celebrate with our community that we have less victimization in Chesterfield and that we're continuing to work together successfully with our community to ensure that less people are victimized.
Right.
That's good.
And that's real good because, again, you hear it through the media, through others saying that crime has increased all over our country. But then when we go out in recruiting, we talk about Chesterfield. That's one of the things that we do have a place to live that is ranked high in the state of Virginia.
Right.
These numbers have just come out, and we are proud of saying that. I was recruiting the other day in North Carolina, and it's easy for me to say I can sell Chesterfield County, not only the partnership that we have with our community, but it's working because it's one of the top 5 places to live in our state of Virginia. So we want to talk briefly about that.
Well, yeah, if and just going back to crime statistics really quickly, I'm attuned to crime statistics. What's happening all over the country right now? Last year, homicide rates increased 35 and 40% throughout the country.
Yes.
We had the largest spike in homicides last year than we have in recorded history of documenting crime. That is profound.
Right.
And, this year we've got, one homicide is too many.
Right,
you know?
exactly.
But this year we have one less homicide this time, right now this year than we did this time last year.
Okay.
So we're trending better as it relates to homicides. And, I think that overall, the differentiation between Chesterfield and other localities is that our community wants to be a safe community, and all elements of our community want to be safe. There are other communities in the country, I think, that they embrace the chaos, they embrace the violence, and they do so simply because of the fact that it creates a crisis that can be exploited for political purposes or for leveraging narratives and such. And Chesterfield, let's face it, it's a great place to live, it's a great place to work, and our community is overwhelmingly in support of public safety, not just our public safety staff, but in terms of supporting the ethos of what we do in service to other people.
Right. And again, that transition into the staffing, the people the retention, the keeping people here. That's the big thing because we look for qualified officers to work for Chesterfield County. That means in every aspect of the word, qualified. That means we're looking for the best.
Right.
Come work for Chesterfield County, and we top tier. And we don't put up with, if you're going to treat citizens bad, we try to get rid of you. And you want to talk, we were talking about that earlier. Some folks are not going to stay here. Even when we're recruiting other police department lateral transfers, some people are not going to make it through that process because, again, not that you wouldn't be a good officer where you're at, but you might not be a good fit for us. If that makes sense.
You're 100% right. It is about the mission, right? It is about the credibility and the brand of the organization. And there is no perfect science in terms of hiring. We do, I think, a really dynamite job in our background investigations and the thoroughness of our vetting. Full psychologicals, multi-leveled background reference checks, polygraph. But there is no perfect science. And when it comes down to it, we recognize that probationary year is part of the hiring and selection process. And we exercise our right to not retain an employee who doesn't demonstrate what it is that we're looking for to carry forth our brand as top-tier talent. You might be a first-round draft choice, but I'm not interested in first-round draft choices. I'm interested in top 10 picks.
Good analysis.
Right?
Yeah.
And we don't try to get rid of people who don't carry the brand. We do unapologetically get rid of people who don't carry the brand because, I'll be honest, nothing zaps the enthusiasm and the pride of an employee who carries their weight and more, like watching management tolerate an employee who's not, right? Everybody knows who the loafer is.
Yep.
The question is, does leadership have the courage to address it? The answer unequivocally is yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Now, and since you came on last year, one of the biggest things that's happened in the department was officer pay raises. That was very significant. The county supported it. We had public support, and you pushed it as our chief. Can you talk a little bit about the pay raises? And I know as a recruiter, we get questioned all the time about the pay, but also we get questioned about this department has the highest starting salary, and this department has this, but a lot of young applicants don't look at the totality of the pay plan.
Right.
And I love our pay plan.
Right. Yeah, so we have a pay system. We have a military style pay system that pays people based on their position and their years of service. What is unique about Chesterfield's pay plan that we pushed through last year and it actually took about 2.5 years to work through this process with the support of county administration and our board. But what we did was we created this military style pay system that will pay people based on their time and based on their position within the organization. We have zero compression among the ranks in our organization. We don't tout the highest starting salary, and frankly, I don't want to be the agency with the highest starting salary. I'm not looking to attract people with short attention spans who are interested in immediate gratification. What I want to recruit personnel who look at the long game, because that's a personality characteristic, and that's something that I think benefits our community and our organization.
Yes.
So what I'm looking for is people to recognize that if you want to make the highest starting salary right now, you're welcome to do that, and you're welcome to do that in another jurisdiction.
Right.
But what we do have here in Chesterfield County is the most equitable pay system that exists in government at all, right?
Absolutely.
We don't, for every dollar that I pay a starting officer who has never worked the street, for every dollar more that I pay that officer, that's another dollar that I cannot pay someone who has served long and faithfully to this organization and demonstrated their competency. So highest pay goes to the people who have been here longest and who have done the work and have proven their merit and their mettle, right? Some organizations, like, there's an organization regionally that their starting salary is 12% higher than our starting salary, which, that's a lot of money, right? But our corporals, on average, make 12% more than their corporals, right?
Exactly.
So what's happening is those folks who are working in that organization right now are experiencing the compression of watching the salaries of people who have not yet proven themselves increasing to the salaries of those who have, for the last 3 or 4 years, been working hard for that community, and they're making the same money.
Exactly.
And that's, frankly, that's not acceptable to me.
Right.
I'm not interested in making the splash. I don't want to make the headlines.
Right.
What I want to do is make sure that we're paying people fairly, that we're paying people justly, and that they recognize that we will lean into them and provide for them for their long and faithful service to our community.
And I think one of the things with our pre-certified program, our lateral officer program, is when there's a process to go through our HR analyst to figure out how many years of service they've had, they drop into our pay plan with their years of service.
Exactly.
A lot of agencies will give you 3/4 of a year or half a year for every year you've been with your most recent department. But if you've been with another department for 20 years and you qualify, we honor that on our pay scale when you come in.
If you qualify, and we're getting what we pay for because you've got a 20-year track record of proven performance, right? So, and to those corporals who are making 12% less than our corporals, we have a lateral program and they can transfer over. And we can benefit. We'll pay for that experience.
Right. And this is happening. I mean, we were getting calls all the time from local agencies, and they're asking, if I'm, with this department 12, 13 years, what's my pay? First, we need to find out if they're in the BRS. Are they in our same retirement system? If not, then it changes a little bit, not the pay, but the retirement, they can buy themselves in, if I'm understanding
Well,
that right.
you
Yes,
know, I'm understanding there is some portability
Right,
with
exactly.
local retirement
Yes,
plans
that
into
you can get in.
VRS.
Yes, exactly.
And it may not be year for year, dollar for dollar.
Right.
But when you factor in the differentiation in pay, when you factor in the work environment, when you factor in the
equipment.
organizational
You should-
culture,
Yes.
the equipment, the training, the support of the community, which
bingo. It's huge.
frankly
Phenomenal.
second to none,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
You can't go out to lunch in a week
And somebody
without
pulling somebody on the side and
paying
say,
your
thank
bill.
you for what you're doing, or paying your
or
bill.
paying your bill and anonymously.
Yeah, don't even know what, but no,
yeah.
yes.
And you know, that's uncomfortable, but it always leads to a huge
It-
tip for the waiter or waitress,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But I mean, what a phenomenal community
Yeah.
to work in.
Yeah.
And, you know, frankly, I think people, they want to be part of something great.
Right.
And what we've got going on in Chesterfield, and I don't credit to just the police department, but to the
no question.
community as a
Exactly.
whole.
Yes.
Chesterfield is a great place to work and
Yeah.
to live.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know one of your SMART goals this year is tasked to our office
To
of
recruiting.
increasing the number of diversity and women applicants. Would you
Yeah.
like to speak about that?
Yeah, well, I touched on it a little bit earlier in terms of
You did.
you know, diverse perspectives and
Right.
talents and skills, and you know, we are better if we can see a more complete picture
Sure.
of challenges in the community as well as ideas and solutions. So yeah, I think embracing diverse viewpoints and cultures and experiences at every level,
Every level,
is essential to making sure that as a public service organization, we are equipped to have people who are making critical decisions for our community, making decisions based on complete information.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, our colonel has been here for over 3 years now.
Yeah, 3.5.
3.5 years. And if you look at when you first came to Chesterfield County from Florida, from that area, is it what you thought it was going to be?
Oh, it's better.
Come on.
It's so much better. I told the Board of Supervisors a couple of months ago that my dream job as a kid was to play linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? And
Here we go with that Pittsburgh again.
yeah, well, you know, I was never bigger, stronger, fast enough to do that. But the next best thing is to be the chief of police in Chesterfield County.
Come on.
I mean, it is an absolute dream job.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
it really is.
Good.
I feel like I've won the professional lottery working here.
Good for you.
Where do you see the department going? I know that you just added another district. Also, just got new schedules, and I understand they really like the new schedule, or at least the option to have a new schedule.
Sure.
What would you like to see us do in the future?
Well, I'd like to continue every day getting better than we were yesterday.
Okay.
You know, I think that in as long as we're hiring talented, high character people, we're demanding excellence from them in everything that we do. We're partnering with our community, and we're always looking for the next great thing, the next best thing. Never comparing ourselves to others,
Exactly.
but running our own race.
Yep.
And doing it in a way that reflects the best of who we are as people, the best of who we are as a community. I think our department will continue to grow, will continue to gain momentum, and people will continue to want to be a part of it. We are not just fully staffed, we are overstaffed. And in
Yes.
this day and age, it says an awful lot because we're not the highest paid,
Right.
but I do think we're the best.
Absolutely.
No question.
I know in the annual report from last year, it looks like this year you're on track to try to hire 4 additional police service aides. Can you talk briefly about the success of that program? That has been very successful.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's been really successful. So, you know, in my own career track, as a young man, I started off as a police cadet in a suburb of Fort Lauderdale and ended up becoming a police service aide and then ended up becoming a police officer. So I had kind of a career track as a young man. And I recognize that you can cultivate homegrown talent,
Yes.
right? If you develop relationships with our community youth, and I really think that's the best place to get public safety personnel. And so, you know, we have our PAL program, and that's blowing up right now. We've
Right.
got a new bowling league, and everything we're doing right now is kind of stemming off that bowling league. But
Right.
you know, I think we've got 26 people that came the first week, and I think maybe 30 something the next week. So, you know, we're developing relationships with the kids through our PAL program. We're beginning to transition our school resource officer program, our traditional SRO program, into our PAL program so that our school resource officers will become PAL coaches and mentors in the schools. And in doing that, we're going to continue to cultivate relationships with our youth. We're going to drive membership into our cadet program. And from our cadet program, those who are not college-bound, traditional college-bound student, and less people are traditional college-bound students now, and they're looking for a career, we'll be able to hire them right after high school graduation, help them in their development through the police service aid program. As we grow the police service aid program, my goal is to have people working both on the street and in CID. So I'd like to see an 18-month rotation where you're working on the road.
Oh, wow.
18 months where you're working in CID. You're 20 and a half years old at that point.
And transition
you go into the police academy as a cadet. And you begin your law enforcement career. And of course, we have educational reimbursement so people can pursue their education on a part-time basis.
Right.
If they're not a traditional college-bound student. So, I think that program, a lot of people talk about the school-to-prison pipeline because they want to argue that law enforcement has a negative impact on children. As a former Parkland police officer, and you all remember Parkland, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting. I recognize, I was at a symposium last year, 2 years ago in Washington, D.C., where the United States Secret Service broke down every targeted school violence action that's occurred in the United States. And one thing that was universal is that every single time law enforcement intervened in a school shooting, it was the school resource officer assigned to that school. It was never the beat officer. It was never an officer responding from the outside. It was always the SRO in the school, except one occasion it was a canine officer sweeping lockers before a dance, happened to be on campus at the time. Otherwise, the school resource officer has always been involved in stopping school violence. And that's a passion of mine. Protecting our children is, again, it's part of protecting the vulnerable. It's consistent with our preservation of human life.
And in a partnership with the schools and the community.
Partnership with the schools and the community. And we're cultivating personnel, right? So really, the SRO program, the PAL program, it touches on all four of the things that we do, and in that way, we invest heavily in it. So I call that our school to squad pipeline.
Okay. Oh,
if you can argue the negative, you can argue the positive. It's a matter of focus.
Well, that's good. That's good. And again, we need to be in the schools and especially get them at that age. Because now you're getting, they know the community, that partnership that we have. Our kids are attending these schools as well. So you get that partnership with the police department, which is awesome.
Well, and I want to touch on that. I had an opportunity to meet with the AfricanAmerican Club at Thomasdale High School about 2 weeks ago. They came to the station. We sat down. We had a great conversation, probably about 3 hours. Started off with a lot of questions about implicit bias and a lot of the things you hear in the media and stuff. At the end of the meeting, there was such camaraderie among all of us in this meeting that they actually agreed to creating a poster for Chesterfield County Schools, helping students identify what the role of a school resource officer is.
Oh, that's
cool. And and I was and that was their idea. I was so enthusiastic about that, and I'm very excited. Again, problem-solving partnership, an interpersonal relationship, people sitting down and coming together with divergent views, talking it out, understanding each other, and then walking away not just as allies, but as partners. And that's special.
And that's what it's all about.
That's special.
That is great.
There are a lot of people out there that want to scare people, rip people apart, and create chaos in order to leverage that for their own benefit.
Bingo.
But you know what? That's not how leadership is done. That's how exploiting people's fear is done. Here, we embrace leadership.
Good. That's good. That's a great example.
And that grew out of, I guess, a club president just simply reaching out to someone in the department and made its way to you.
Yeah, we got an email.
Right.
And, I hate email, right? That's another goal. That's another goal of our department is to reduce email by 10%, right, this year. I hate email. So, they wanted to they wanted to answer questions via email. I said, let's sit down,
right.
And then they said, well, let's get together via Zoom. And I said, no, let's sit down, And then we did. We sat down, and it worked.
Good.
That's good. That is great.
Well, I mean, we done talked a lot, got a lot of information. Anything that we need to... that's coming around the block or anything that we need to know about so we can start talking about it in our office?
Last time you told us about the bid policy.
Yeah.
Man,
Now,
that was major news.
that was major news. I don't have any breaking news for you today,
Okay.
Elliott.
On
I
air.
know
We could do it off
and I
air.
know you're.
Yeah. But good.
So
Good.
no new Corvettes for the department, no Hummers, no.
Yeah, no, nothing over the top. But I do want to share with our listeners one development I think that we've made this year that I think is extraordinary and definitely a pioneering move. And we assigned a full-time wellness coordinator, Cody Johnson,
yes,
to our academy.
Yes.
And Cody serves as, we recognize that the work that our people do is hard.
Yep.
That developing resiliency and dealing with cumulative stress is something that everybody has to do. If we do it well and we do it right, it will make us stronger.
Right.
It doesn't make us weaker.
Right.
And Cody is here to help us do that.
Good.
So, anybody who needs peer support, anybody who wants to avail themselves of the employee assistance program, anybody who wants to work on their nutrition, their fitness, their mile pace, whatever it may be.
Right.
They can reach out to Cody, and Cody's full-time job is to help people be better versions of themselves and individually, so that collectively we can be better as an
Right.
organization.
And she's good at it.
And that's
I spoke to. Yeah.
and
she's
that's a
really good.
real investment in our people,
Yep.
because people are the things that make this work.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I know that you listen to every podcast, and this comes up when we have talked to our detectives and people in stressful jobs. What do you do to alleviate stress for you? What's your stress management plan?
I run a
From
lot.
people or
No. No,
So you're a runner.
I run a lot. I ran 6 miles this morning.
awesome.
I run all the
Awesome.
time, about 100 miles a month at this point. My goal is to reach 1,000 miles this year.
Oh, good for you.
wow, that's good.
Wow.
But that's where it's where I get my best thinking done.
Oh, yeah.
It's where I do creative problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
It's where I detach from the world. And frankly, if it weren't for that, I would probably be bald.
Yeah. Not that you're not bald.
Well, eyebrows.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, again, another great podcast. Colonel, we want to thank you. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
thank you
good.
very much.
Our anniversary, we had that 1 year anniversary, and you came back and gave us some great information.
Good real talk.
Real talk, exactly, and that's what it's all about, having real talk. And I know there are not a lot of departments in this country that's doing what we're doing, having a real talk with not only our leaders but our chief of police department. We want to thank you. We really do want to thank you for that.
Well, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for the great work that you do all year long.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate you.
And we're going to continue that, partner. We're
We
going to
will.
continue bringing folks here and talk about things that are going on in our community, talk about that partnership that we have in our community, and not only with the community, but with our police department as well.
Absolutely. We'd like for all of our listeners to know we are still hiring for police officers.
That's it.
And you can simply go to chesterfieldpd.com. That's chesterfieldpd.com to apply, to learn more about the position as well as other positions we have to offer. You can follow us on all of our social media accounts, and we really appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you all. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Another good one, partner.
Thank you.